What do you make of some of the money that doesn't get spent literally till years out from now?
You know, one thing that we found out after the 2008 collapse, and we had a very sluggish recovery, and I think that all the economists and the politicians learned from that experience. Said when it may not be enough stimulus just at the moment. We need to encourage growth in the economy. And the argument that I would make on debt and deficit is when we grow the economy, that helps in debt and deficit. If we have a sluggish recovery like we did after 2009, we may not have done everything that we needed to do. So let's not say that's not important to recovery. I think it can be very important given our past experience.
Senator Judd Gregg, is there a compromise to be had here, and is there influence that the Republicans can have in this conversation, or do you think it just gets jammed through?
Oh, it gets jammed through with 51 votes because that's the way reconciliation works, and that's been used in the past by both parties fairly effectively. But to get to your point, Andrew, when you put this 1.9 trillion on top of CBO's projected 2.3 trillion deficit this year, and then you throw in a infrastructure bill of 1 or 2 trillion, you're talking $5 to $6 trillion of deficit spending this year, on top of $4 trillion of deficit spending last year, which makes our debt to GDP ratio over 130%, which makes Italy and France and Greece look solvent. The simple fact is that you got to pay the piker someday. I mean, apples do fall from trees. If you're going to print this much debt and this much money down the road, Heidi's concern about having an economy grow is going to be suffocated by massive amounts of excess debt and printed money. And at some point, you got to stop. I mean, you just can't keep this up. And if you look at the 1.9 trillion, Heidi says, well, this is going to benefit the lower quartile. No, it's not. The $1,400 checks are just a helicopter. They're thrown out of a helicopter. They're not focused at all. And you got $350 billion, which is going to state and local governments, which have been profligate over the years, like Illinois, New York, California. So states like New Hampshire and North Dakota, which have been fiscally responsible, the people are going, oh, you're going to have to pay for their states. Now we're going to have to pay for Illinois and a bunch of other states. And then you got a big chunk of money going to teachers' unions. And let's face it, the teachers' unions aren't even allowing their kids to go back to school. So, I mean, this bill is walking around money to a large extent for Democratic constituencies. It's going to be purely a Democratic bill because they control the government. And I guess you can expect that. If you got a liberal government, you're going to get a liberal bill. But someday, our kids are going to have to pay for this massive, massive expansion of debt and deficit spending, and for the money that's being printed to support it.
Hey, Heidi, let me ask you and I want you to respond to that, but let me add one wrinkle to this. Is there given the expected plan to come in with an infrastructure plan on the back of this, is there any benefit politically to some form of compromise, bringing this down to, I don't know, $1.5 trillion, for example, cut off the $350 billion I just mentioned that doesn't get spent till 22, 23, 24, 25, for example, because there's going to be a lot more money on the other side? And what does it say about President Biden's plan to try to be a negotiator and create some semblance of bipartisanship? Or was the lesson from the Obama administration and this last administration that you just don't do that anymore?
You know, look, 10 or 12 senators showed up in the White House. Biden engaged with them, said, look, this is what we've got to do. I want to remind people that Biden promised during the election and then won the election. He promised a $2,000 check. $600 of that already went out. There's $1,400 here. And I love when people who are millionaires in the Senate decide these people really don't need this money, even though they can't pay the rent. They're in food lines. They're worried about their future. So how about we make some investment on the bottom half? I didn't see this kind of crocodile tears when we had almost $1 trillion deficit during what allegedly was the best economy in the history of the country. And we were spending billions of dollars to farmers. I mean, you know, it's kind of like, you know, we're all complaining now because the wrong people are getting this money, but no one talked about what was happening during the greatest economy, and we were running in record deficits back then. I mean,
Well,
it's incredible.
Heidi, that's absolutely incorrect, and please don't make those types of incorrect statements. The fact is, I was aggressively opposed to the amount of debt which was run up during the Trump administration.
But Judge, other people sitting in your seat in the United States Senate, so-called deficit hawks, whether you want to call Ted Cruz, they didn't say a peep. So I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about leadership in the Senate at the time who now are complaining and going to vote against this package while they close their eyes running up record deficits during a very high quality period of time for the economy. So let's realize we're in a crisis. We need to come together and we need to negotiate and get this done.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.